All right, well, welcome. My name is Barry Feldman of Feldman Creative, and with me on video and audio is Andy Crestodina, my friend and strategic director slash co-founder of Orbit Media Studios in Chicago. Hey, Andy, thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here, Barry.
Well, Andy, you know a lot, I think. In most of our conversations about content marketing, we've talked about how it flies alongside a search, and when you understand both, you're much more likely to get the kind of traction and success you're aiming to get. So I thought today we'd talk about search and particularly how it relates to your blog.
Sounds good. Yeah, this is a favorite topic of ours.
All right, so let's get going with the idea here today is how to get your blog on the first page of Google. So pretty ambitious goal, but I think it's understood that there is no other page. What do you think about that?
I think that's mostly true, although I just saw a study. The click-through rate of pages that rank on the second page of Google is something like 4%. Like 4% of all the clicks in Google are happening on page 2. So page 3 is even lower than that. So 90+% of clicks in Google are happening on the first page. Something like 18+% of those are on the first position, something like that.
Yeah, so I guess, I'll share the joke since not everybody knows the joke, but it's a popular joke that the best place to hide a dead body is the second page of Google. So I suppose it's not entirely true. I mean, the good news is 4% of the investigators will find your dead body there.
That's right. That's right. You could get busted for hiding a dead body in Google. 4% of the time, it will actually get clicked. That dead body that you're hiding.
So if you do your homework the way we'll talk about, I suppose, with tools such as the AdWords tool, and you have a small population of searchers per month, page 2's a pretty distant wannabe spot, and page 1 is where you need to be. But I suppose if you're talking about in a high volume search, you stand a chance on page 2.
Yeah, there's a trickle of traffic, for sure.
All right, good. Yeah, because there's a lot of pages. There's not too many things that I do a search for that doesn't invoke, hundreds of thousands of results, and obviously you don't have the time to click through all of them. But sometimes you do wind up on page 2 or 3. It's good to know that you could be in 11th place and be in the race.
That's true.
All right, so we're going to speak specifically about knowing what you need to know about search and the research that goes into it and the creation of a blog post that you hope achieves what you want to as the writer or the creator or the publisher of the blog post, and that is the visibility that comes with being on the first page and then the traffic coming back to your site. So my first question is, do you approach your blog posts with this goal? Are you thinking far in advance, I'm going to write about something and be on page 1 of Google?
I do. And the answer is definitely yes. I put in extra time and effort and energy into specifically finding key phrases and aligning pages with key phrases and indicating relevance for those phrases, knowing that it's really my best and only chance of having content that gets discovered and read and shared and attracting an audience weeks and months and years after it goes live. So I basically, email marketing and social media have very short half-lives. So those are great sources of traffic, but in the long run, I know that if I'm going to write something and it's going to get read next month, next year, that's just not going to happen unless I've successfully ranked it by targeting a key phrase and indicating relevance.
So are you one of these shady characters that allows the robots to come before the humans?
No, that would actually, I don't think that ever really works. You know that it doesn't. So let's say you are shady and you wrote something that ranks and it stinks. How does that really meet any of your goals? Because if a visitor finds it, they're just not going to stay. They're not going to share it. It's not going to convince them to take any action. It doesn't really get you any results. Ranking for its own sake, it's really like a vanity metric, or it really won't meet any of your goals in the long run. You'll have a page where it ranks and maybe it does get visitors, but none of them, the average time on the page is in the 5 to 10 second range. That doesn't help you do anything. So no, absolutely not. It's simply to help people find something that I truly believe in, where I really deliberately tried to make it the best page on the internet for the topic.
Yeah, what you just said made me think of something that I say a lot, and I suppose there's understanding here that your buying cycle is long, or at least it's longer than instant gratification. I got my wallet out, I'm shopping. And that is that you're not, the goal really isn't to get somebody to your website, the goal is to get somebody to subscribe to it. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, traffic times conversions equals success. You know, you have to have visitors, and then the visitors have to take an action, or else it was worthless. So basically, anything times 0 is 0. So we want visitors to come to the site. That's the first number. And then a percentage of those visitors to act. That's the second number. So all the rank, all the traffic in the world will do nothing for your business at all unless you also have a conversion rate. Some percentage of those visitors commented, shared, subscribed, linked to, mentioned, referred to. Something else happened beyond just the visit.
All right, so we got that straight. We're not CD black hat characters. Our heart's in the right place. We have value to share. We're going to write a post because we're going to help people understand a topic, and that we can't really do that if there are no people. So we want to merge the world of a high value and high discovery, and we're going to do that by thinking ahead when we create a blog post. So you said, I forgot the exact words, but you got into, like in just a second, the discovery process or the research process. So where does it begin? How do you say, I'm going to go take my blog post to page 1. What's the first part of that exercise?
We're going to ask ourselves 3 questions in this process. The first one is really, is anyone searching for this phrase? We need to find a phrase that people are actually looking for, because there's no point in ranking for a phrase if no one's looking for it. We joke that it'd be easy to rank for a phrase like ambidextrous armadillo. I could make the only page on the internet that includes those combinations of words. I could rank number 1 for that phrase next week. It would do me no good because nobody's looking for that.
It might prove the things you're going to say in this interview, true or false. We should probably just try it.
We should try it. It would be a fun experiment. I'm about 90% sure I could rank in the top 3 for ambidextrous armadillo by within 5 or 6 days for sure.
How about we both do it? See who ranks higher.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it. Let's try to get that traffic.
Yeah. How about not? How about we talk about getting your blog post on page 1?
Yeah. So question 1 is, are people searching for it? Question 2 is, do I have a chance of ranking for it? And then question 3 is, can I make the best page on the internet for the topic? If you answer yes to all 3 of those, it's a worthy cause. If 2 out of 3, don't bother. So we need to really find the answers to those 3 questions. And so it starts with keyword. The first 2 questions are about keyword research. The first is search volume. The second is competition. All
right. So let's step through them then. Search volume, competition. So search volume. How do you find out what that is, and what are you looking for when you're seeking?
There's lots of keyword research tools out there, but the bread and butter for all of us is really Google Keyword Planner. It's part of AdWords. It's a massive set of data. So you just have to log into AdWords using any Google account. You don't have to be an AdWords subscriber or user or advertiser. And then in the Keyword Planner, you enter a key phrase, and it will tell you how many people are searching for that phrase every month, or an estimate. And then it will tell you up to 800 suggested phrases that are related. So it's really, Google made this to help advertisers find more phrases to advertise and bid on, and that's how they make, I think, $57 billion in the last 12 months in advertising. They're very good at this.
Is that all? The violin comes out.
I know, those guys, poor guys. So that's the first thing, is we want to check volume. Are people truly looking for it? And there's problems with that number, but that number will at least tell us, yes, people are looking for it, or no, it's fewer than 10 searches per month on average. There's no number shown. So I don't chase big numbers in there. I don't say, oh, this one's 60,000 people searching for it. I need to really try to target that phrase. I'm mostly using this as a way to just validate that it is in fact a phrase that has some demand. I don't put tons of stock in that number. Google is now paying a lot of attention to semantics and synonyms and grammatical forms, and it's really a search engine of topics more than phrases these days. But the tool only lets us search for phrases. So there's lots of little ways in which that number is not super accurate. It's the exact match number. It does not show synonyms or any semantical linking. So just for that reason, I'm just kind of validating yes or no, people are looking for it or not.
No thresholds as in too small or too big?
I used to pay attention to that. I used to say, well, if there aren't at least several hundred people per month searching for it, I'm not going to bother. But the number's so inaccurate now that, if you search for a phrase, it will show other related phrases. It's It's the lines are all blurred. It's not really about key phrases anymore. It's more about topics. So when you enter a key phrase, it tells you yes or no. People are looking for that exact specific exact match phrase. That's good enough for me. So I target things. Sometimes they might look very low, but that's fine. I just want to check to see, is there some volume on it? Is there some interest in the topic? Is that truly a phrase that people use, or a top of mind phrase, or there's demand for that general subject?
Yeah, I think I have to take from that, if we're giving advice to people who are going to try this formula for the first time, that we can't tell you what those thresholds would be. You might have your own.
Yeah.
It could be a big number. You could say it's not worth it unless it's a big number. But obviously, it's an inverse relationship between the popularity of search volume and your chances of succeeding here.
There is, exactly right. Inverse relationships. That's the second question: is do we have a chance of ranking for it? And generally speaking, just as you said, the longer, more specific the phrase, the less competition there will be for it, and the greater your chance of ranking for it. So the top, the single words, or the head phrases, or, Super Bowl tickets, or, HD TV, or digital camera, like, just forget about it. And right now, for sure, you've got no chance of ranking for that unless you're a super famous, super authoritative website. So I target lots of very long, specific phrases. But surprisingly, there is demand for them. I rank, I think, right now for how does social media affect SEO? That's a long phrase. It's a full sentence.
Yeah.
But something like 60 people a month are searching for it. It's quite a few people. So it's often surprising.
So how did you come to know that? I guess I actually probably know the answer, but was it an alternate suggestion from where you began?
Yes, I think it was. I might have found that through another tool. There's ways to look to see what Google suggests to people. But I knew that I was writing an article about SEO and social media together. And as I put in different phrases, I think that one was suggested inside the keyword planner itself.
Okay, so I think if you split this video, left this video immediately after and said, I got to try this, it's going to work, you would purposely aim for low search volume so you can prove the concepts that we're talking about.
That's right. It's something very low, hopefully not zero. There's no zeros in that tool. It just shows a dash. But
right.
Yeah, it's like the ambidextrous armadillo. We could, there's no competition. You could rank very easily by making one of the few pages on the web with that combination of words.
So Google shows you in its AdWords research numbers, it's going to go 0, 10. Right, so you need 10. There's no 8 or 7.
It rounds them off for sure. There's numbers like that appear all the time and numbers that never appear. So it's either a dash for 0 or it's 10. I think 10 is the lowest number you'll see in there, which means that there's an average of 10 searches per month for that phrase exactly as you typed it.
Yeah. All right, so we'll allow that for the listeners to be a little bit fuzzy, but it's probably 2 digits you're looking for to try this for the first time, get some momentum going, and then if you go for triple digits, more power to you. That, springboards into do I have a chance? And the do I have a chance thing has to do with the competition, right?
Right. So the number one main factor in Google for ranking is and was and will always be the authority of the page. In other words, the link popularity of the page and of the domain in general. So are other sites linking to it? Is it credible among other sites? Sonia Simone jokes that Google is like the mean girl in high school. You can get her to like you, but not directly. You've got to get all the other people to like you first, and then she'll like you.
Yeah.
That's how Google works.
Yeah.
So if your site has credibility among other websites, as in backlinks or incoming links from other sites, then you have more authority and you have a better chance of ranking in general. So knowing what your domain authority is, and domain authority, for the record, is just a proxy for Google's own metric, which is called PageRank, which Google doesn't quite share that with us anymore. So just use domain authority. Domain authority, you can look it up using OpenSiteExplorer.org. And it'll give you a number. It's 1 to 100. So you might have a domain authority of 30 or of 60, whatever that might be. Now here's the trick, and this is what most people miss, and this is the breakdown 101. If you learn one thing from this video, take this away. Target phrases for which the domain authority of the other high-ranking pages is in the same range as yours. If the other sites have a domain authority in the 80s and 90s, you're going to need a site with the domain authority in the 80s or 90s to successfully compete with those sites for that topic. If the other sites are in the 20s and 30s and 40s, yeah, you'll have a chance if you're in that range. So we joke that, don't enter the Indy 500 on a bicycle, you'll lose every time. But you might win the Tour de France. You've got a bicycle. That's it. You're going to win every marathon. So if your domain authority is in a certain range, let's say the 40s, don't target phrases for which the other high-ranking sites have domain authority much higher, but go ahead and target anything in the range of maybe the 40s or lower.
When I think about what that looks like as I do that from memory, I'll add to our tool set now the Moz bar. So the Moz bar, for listeners that don't know, is a free extension that'll go with your popular browser, probably Chrome or Firefox, and it'll have a toggle on or off, and it'll show you the results it'll show you the domain authority from Moz of all of the hits that it put in front of you on that search engine results page. So that's what Andy's talking about now, because you're looking for at a sea of them, and you're looking for like he said, a race that you can compete in and win. So are there places there, because I see this often where you think, well, I can't beat that one anyway, even though it's a low authority site, or the opposite, I can beat that one, and you're making wrong assumptions. So one of the ones that cause that to happen most often is the thing you search for matches exactly or almost exactly the domain. Do you have to say, oh, even though that domain has a low authority, the words in the domain are such a great match that Google's doing its job and it'll never have that spot. Is that a fair thing to assume?
Well, there's so many other ranking factors. So when a lot of people learn what we just talked about, and they go get Mozbar and they turn it on and they look and they say, well, that site has a lower domain authority than this site. How come it's ranking higher? Because there's lots of other factors. Some sites do a better job of, well, first of all, there's not a neutral logged out search really. I mean, there might be other factors that are related to your location, to the device you're on, to lots of your browsing history, search history. So it's hard to tell anyway. But assuming that you're seeing some kind of neutral version of search results, yeah, there's other factors, right? That site might be doing a better job of indicating its relevance. It might have links from more relevant websites. It might be using the phrase in more places. It might be a page that visitors in the past have had a better experience with, and the average time on that page is much higher. There's lots of little reasons why a page might rank higher, and why domain authority is, of course, not the only factor in Google. But generally speaking, it matters a lot. Sites with higher domain authority have a much higher overall likelihood of appearing high in the search results in Google. So there's numbers here. The statistical correlation is something like 0.39. It's a very high correlation compared to other factors. The authority of one page correlating with high rankings is like 0.39, which is, of course, 1 and -1 are perfect correlations. That's from the Moz study, which they do every 2 years.
All right, so then the opposite, is worthy of discussion. You could see what you might perceive to be not even a close match whatsoever, but a super high domain authority. So your term that you're thinking about at the moment, it's not even in the title, it's not in the domain, but it probably is in the article or the metadata, I guess from a user point of view, the snippet below the listing. And so I guess if I'm doing that, and I've done that a little bit more ever since I've known you, so I sort of feel like I'm getting the hang of it, and I certainly wouldn't want to give this lesson without you along here. But when I'm doing that, I'm looking, if I see an opening but I only see one, I might move on and adjust a little. I'm looking for the sake of having a little net below me, like 2 or 3 what I would consider windows. And what I mean by that is, let's just use real numbers so it's not so hypothetical. Feldman Creative is currently at a domain authority of 45. So if I have a phrase in mind, I do a search, I'm looking for there to be at least 2 hits on page 1 that have an inferior domain authority. You think that's a good strategy?
I think so. It's not always true, but the higher sites tend to have higher ones. So I used to tell people, well, just be in the range between the highest and the lowest on the page, somewhere in there. Yeah, I mean, ideally, your domain authority is going to be in the middle or toward the high end of the range of the different domain authorities on the page. But there's lots of other factors. I mean, if Wikipedia is one of those, yeah, that's like domain authority of 99 or 100 or something. And the bottom line is, it's not about the domain authority in the end anyway. It's about the authority of the specific page. Google does not rank websites. They rank web pages. So and nothing ranks in general. It's all for specific phrases. But Yeah, there's lots of outliers that you'll see in there, and sometimes you'll see like a local search result that pops in the middle there somewhere. But yeah, generally speaking, there should be several on that page. I like your rule there. Several that have a lower domain authority than yours.
Yeah, and my page authority, if the page doesn't exist yet, is going to be 0, right? So that's why I sort of gravitate towards my domain authority, seeing like, how do I stack up against the competition? You know, because the page authority is going to grow over time. Like, I guess if Sonia's here to help us extend our metaphor, you need people talking about you liking you. That's like passing notes, right? That's social sharing and you know, links and so forth. So that you have to work on you know, after you've published.
Yeah, that's the perfect way to say it. It's so true. I mean, you can't compare the page authority of a page that doesn't exist yet to the authority of the high-ranking pages. So domain authority is kind of the next closest thing. I think it's just an easier way. You know, we're not going to micromanage Google. You know, don't try too hard to do these things. Just follow best practices and target. You know, there's a competition column in Google Keyword Planner. Ignore that. That's competition for AdWords. Just turn on the Moz bar, know your own domain authority, turn on the Moz bar, and just get a sense for, are you in the general range? And sometimes it's obvious even before you turn on Moz bar, because you see all the high-ranking pages are super famous websites, and you're not a super famous website. Okay, I need to, you know, find a smaller pond where I've got a chance of being the bigger fish.
Yeah, well, I think that's an eye-opening discussion for a lot of people. And I think particularly we should concentrate on fairly low numbers with the domain and or page authority, because this is how it's going to work. This is how you're going to get authority over the long haul, is, you know, get links, get traffic, and get a website that people spend time on. So we're not going to be like opening the eyes of people that have a domain authority of 95. They already are good at SEO, or maybe they're like incredibly lucky in spite of the fact that they're not good at SEO, but they're creating a lot of trusted content. So we're going to be talking to somebody that might not even have a blog yet and try to say, hey, you might as well make it work. You might as well get on page 1. So we're talking about fairly low numbers. So you keep looking, right? You get to a page and you go, I can't rank here. Why waste my time? I keep looking. Well, I'm going to interrupt, Barry, because relevant to you and to your audience and to bloggers like me, we often write for other websites. You might write for a super credible website. You can target, you know, very, very difficult phrases, but if you just do so in guest posts for super credible websites, right? A great content marketer is not stuck on their own site, right? Get out there, write for other people. You can target any phrase you want, just you might not be able to, you know, but just borrow someone's car and then enter the Indy 500. Yeah, that's good advice. Okay, but we're talking about your blog today and how to get your blog on page 1, and I'd love to hear people get back to us with, it worked, you know. So let's say I have moderately low domain and or page authority in the, you know, somewhere in the 10 to 20 range. It brings up the idea of long tail search strategy, right? And though we've talked about it sort of because we understand it ourselves, we've talked about it a little bit without pointing out what exactly it means. You think you can give like a 1-minute 101 on what long tail means?
Sure. You said it earlier. The longer and more specific the phrase, the lower the search volume, but the less competition. So long tail would be like 5 and 6 and, you know, 8-word long phrases. These might be phrases for which there is actually 0 demand in the keyword planner. Fine. I'll target some of those anyway, just to kind of get going, just to get used to the rest of SEO, which is using the phrase, of course. Here's a trick. Go to keywordtool.io. I used to use Ubersuggest. Now I use keywordtool.io. It will scrape Google Suggest for you and give you all kinds of suggested key phrases. Some of them are very, very long. Those are phrases that, yes, someone's looking for, or else it wouldn't appear in Google Suggest. And so try targeting one of those phrases. They're going to be like 8 and 10-word phrases sometimes. Great. Pick that phrase. There's some demand for it. It might be fewer than 10 searches per month, but you'll start ranking. You will see a trickle of traffic from these. And then, you know, you chose something that was kind of, you know, lower volume, but also totally attainable for almost any blog.
All right. So you got either you're doing that consecutive tool thing, or you got side-by-side windows open now, right? Because you're using a tool to do keyword research, and then you're using one of the Moz tools, or probably the button I talked about, the Moz bar, to see if you're entering the right race.
That's right. That's right. It's a balance. It's a mix. And if we can't, and if we're a very young site with low domain authority, we might choose something that has very low search volume, but we got to pick our battles in the beginning. Well, you know, We want to know that we can win for something.
Yeah, and I think it's cool to think of it as a step on a ladder because you're also going to be thinking long term about your authority. So you need people at your website.
Exactly.
And you need people sharing it, and you need all the things that come with creating content that people actually care about.
SEO is slow.
SEO
really
is slow. Should I make that a meme and see if we can get that to circulate around the world?
I can't think of a slower form of marketing.
Yeah, okay.
It takes a long time. It took me 7 years to rank high for Chicago web design.
7 years.
It's a work of years. Yes, yes, many years sometimes.
All right, well, let's move on. We didn't go linearly through my questionnaire, but we have sort of tackled the strategy. You're at a headline. At least you know, if we're talking long tail, you know like 3 to 8 words of your headline, and you got to go from there. So having talked about the strategy and understanding the competition, and then moving forth to get your blog on page 1, now you got to write a blog. And so what kind of suggestions can you toss at me as the writer of the blog so that I'm playing according to the search rules and I stand a chance?
Yep. Question 1 was, is someone searching for it? Question 2 is, do we have a chance of ranking for it? Question 3 is, can I make the best page on the internet for that topic? Can I really write something great? Is it worthy of ranking? Google has 2,000 math PhDs on staff. You're not going to trick them. You really have to make something great and deserving of rank, or else why bother? So as you write that great piece of content on the topic, focus on the reader, be legit, write something good. You're all about quality, Barry. I know that you're obsessed with these things. You will. It's tough to get you to sacrifice anything.
I try.
For a keyword.
Yeah.
So once you've done that, just go back and make sure that you indicated relevance. And I think we should just call it indicating relevance. I always say this phrase. It's kind of I think we should rename SEO, indicate relevance. So did you use the phrase in those most important places to tell Google that, yes, you are truly about this topic? Is it in the title? Is it in the header? Is it in the body? And is it in the meta description? Let's just leave it at that. Title tag, use it once, use it at the beginning. How does social media affect SEO? Dash Orbit Media. Is it in the header? The headline is not necessarily the same as the title. How does social media affect SEO? That was the header. And then in the body text, I want to make, I'm using those words more than one time. I wrote a 1,500 word article. It's probably in there 4 to 6 times. That would be normal. It would be weird if I didn't use the phrase that many times. It should be in there at least a couple of times. I don't go over the top with like keyword density, or if there's ways to really try to micromanage this. I don't go that far. And then the meta description, of course, you want to use it once. That's a normal full sentence, plain English description of the page. That's about it.
The image?
Just use the phrase.
The image, maybe? Did you leave that out, or you're not thinking about that at this point?
I don't know that there's not a strong correlation between using... Okay, so Google Images, you want to use the phrase in the file name. You want the image to be high res. You want to use it in the alt tag. If there's another place to use the phrase, I think it should be in links on other pages that link to the page. So I should go back and find another article on my blog that talks about how social media and SEO, and link to the new article on this topic, the one I'm optimizing, the one I'm hoping to rank for this topic, and use that phrase kind of somehow in the link to this new page, internal linking. But the image, I don't know, maybe not.
Yeah, well, the thing that you said, I think that people might respond to, having done a little bit of research on this topic, would be the keyword density. I think if you put a tool in place, and more often than not that tool is called Yoast, which if you're not familiar with it, viewers, is just a little plugin that goes along with WordPress that sort of prompts you to do this stuff right, so you don't have to remember all the things Andy just talked about. And then comes, it reports back to you with a series of either numbers or lights, red light, green light, and the cautionary light, yellow. And so I think a lot of times people go, oh boy, it gave me a yellow or red light for keyword density, but it's really not super important anymore, is it?
I don't think density is what people thought it was. There's a new article on, or it's maybe a month old, on Moz about this and about keyword usage, and apparently density is just not such a factor anymore. What matters is how often is the phrase used relative to the likelihood of that phrase being used in any page. There's like other ways to measure this. It's like the algorithm in Google has advanced so far beyond that. There isn't like a, don't worry. People used to be like, oh, I want to get exactly, 4.5% keyword density. It's like, oh, just calm down. I wouldn't worry about that. Make a great page on the topic. Here's a trick, though, and I recommended this to you once. Use synonyms. If you search for a phrase in Google, and in the search results you see other words and synonyms and different grammatical forms that are bolded, that's an indication that Google has created a semantic link between the phrase you're targeting and other phrases. So don't just use the specific phrase 4 to 6 times or a certain percentage of density. Try to use different forms, different related phrases, phrases that are complements to that indicate that you're part of kind of phrases that are in the family of that, in that topic.
All right, we got really far along with the things I wanted to talk about, and it got chapterized nicely by you with the 3 things. So I think this will be unravel in an easy to understand format, even if you don't watch the video and you just read the cheat sheet that I'll write as a post. Now you've done it. You've written this piece. You've published it. You hit publish. Does it always work? Does it work a lot? Is it a hit and miss type of thing?
In exact science, I mean, Google is the blackest black box in the universe. No one knows what's going on. I mean, it's like the formula for Coke is nothing compared to this, right?
The blackest black box. All right, let me get that one down. And right next to, what was it? SEO takes a long time, or you had less words?
Oh, SEO is slow.
SEO is slow.
My favorite quote was Sonia's. I think she's the one who said, Google's the mean girl in high school.
Apparently anyway. you like Sonia's stuff.
Oh, I'm a massive Sonia fan.
Yeah, she's a great writer.
So it doesn't work. It works maybe half the time for me, and I've been doing this for 15 years. You just go live with something you believe in and then see what works. So reasons it might work are that you picked a good phrase, you were in the right range for competition, you used the phrase in proper ways. If it didn't work, then generally we can try to make the phrase more competitive in terms of authority by linking to it from other pages. I do specifically build links in guest posts and other internal linking and do whatever I can to make a page that I was really trying to rank. I try to make it more relevant by linking to it.
Before you publish or after you publish or both?
After you publish. I mean, if I'm, so people, I joke, it's like, oh, I was targeting that phrase and it didn't work. I got to keep working on that. When I say I got to keep working on that, that's what I mean. I got to write guest posts on related topics and link back to this page that I'm trying to optimize.
Yeah, so I'm going to let you go there, but I'm going to give you a short rope here because I know this is a subject you know a lot about because I've seen you present on it. So you even have a session on, I forgot what you call it, but on optimizing the already optimized published page. So that's sort of where I want to end up here. You are not on page 1, but you're ranked. You're on page 2 or on page 3. So it ain't over, right? You have a plan and you started into it with creating links within your own website. What else can you do?
You can better indicate relevance by making the page more focused on the topic. You can do whatever you can to try to make the page higher quality. Simply improve the page. Make it longer, make it more specific, add a video, add graphics. Ultimately, we're not going to try to reverse engineer Google as much as we are trying to collaborate with Google to help visitors discover quality, help them surface great content. So make it better content. That's advice that SEOs don't say enough. Hey, your page doesn't rank yet? Make it better. Go improve it. Another thing is just kind of to keep sharing it and make it more visible. Put it in roundups. Get it into heavy rotation on social. See if maybe some other people will just discover it and maybe refer back to it, mention it, link to it. That will help. But basically, you want to either make it a better page or make it a more visible page among people who create links and might link to it. Yeah,
think about its popularity, I guess. I have a new email signature, kind of a freemium model aftermarket thing, and it at the bottom signs off with what your latest post is. So you basically promote your blog, right? It's a big noisy sea out there. It's up to you to get it in front of people.
That's the job.
All right, I'm going to show everybody your book. It's in its 2nd edition. Here's what it looks like. See if
That's it.
That's Andy's book. It's called Content Chemistry, and it's illustrated, and it's juicy, and it's awesome. And I got myself a copy. And it's not just like a open on page 1, read it a couple of chapters a night, finish it, and then forget about it. It's kind of a reference manual of sorts. I know I heard Jeannie say that she keeps it close by, and I do too. And I didn't even have that. Handy because it's just handy because that's where I keep it, right there, right behind me. And I thought of it when you talked about indicating, what do you call it? Indicating relevance?
Relevance. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, indicating relevance as another name for SEO. So I wrote a piece, as you know, which ranks high, a nice little circle here called SEO Simplified. And I tried to, spill it in 15 minutes. It was based on a challenge a client gave me, and I thought, ooh, unrealistic expectations. But I gave, if it was read aloud, it would be about 15 minutes. And I heavily resourced this because I know of that lesson from you about indicating relevance. It's cool. It really simplifies it because SEO is a complicated, and it's even kind of a complicated term. It's messy.
I know. Yeah, it freaks people out. It just sounds sketchy. It's like there's things about it that just turn people off immediately. They just. I think what they miss, and I like this message coming from you, is because you are extremely credible on the topic of quality, and I think quality is kind of understated in SEO. There's so much emphasis placed on tactics and on tricks and what can I, what are the SEO hacks out there? It's like rule number one, that's why we said it. Find a phrase people search for, make sure you have a chance of ranking for it, and then question 3 is, can you make a great page on the topic?
Yeah, well, I think Google's been around for a couple of decades. In the first decade, it didn't have what it takes to make an assessment about quality.
Right. And now they know. I mean, if all the this is another clue, and it's something that it's hard for people to study. When I look at my site and I see the blog posts that get the most search traffic, they are also the blog posts that people spend the most time reading.
Yeah.
5 minutes on this page, 6 minutes on this page, 4 minutes here. People spend 7 minutes reading on average. People spend 7 minutes on that page. That's because that page is high quality, and quality is what correlates with rank. So don't try to reverse engineer Google. Just try to do something great. And yes, check competition, check volume, and indicate the relevance.
Okay, so let's straighten something out then, because I feel this was a response to a conversation I had with a client. They're not on your page for 7 to 10 minutes because there's a crossword puzzle there, or there's a beautiful person there or something. They're there because they're reading, or if there's other media, they're consuming it. So get this out of your mind that Seth Godin makes 100-word posts so anybody can rank well with 100-word posts. No, Seth Godin has millions of loyal readers.
Google is a research engine. Who's winning in Google? Wikipedia. Why? Because they made the best page on the internet for millions of topics. Go deep. That's what. There's lots of. Google is not the only source of traffic, but people use it as a research tool. Google is the internet's library. So if you want to be relevant in a research context, you need to write things that are resources. So pick a big enough topic that you can go deep enough on it and produce 1,000 to 2,000 words at least.
Yeah, I like that. I didn't want to give a formula for the word count. Maybe a minimum's probably a good idea. Data indicates that those are the ones that generally do rank. But deep is cool, right? Because you don't put a number on deep. If you're done with this post and you could have done a better job and you could have went deeper, it won't be a big mystery why you let yourself down in search. You didn't go deep enough.
Right. Don't fluff it up. Choose a big topic, a topic worthy of a serious piece of reference material.
Right on. Well, that's how to get your blog post on the first page of Google, or at least I think that's about as much as we can dump on you from an expert like Andy in 30 minutes. And I think if you'll try it, you'll certainly see some results, and you'll learn a lot in the process. So let's wrap it up here. Andy, tell these people if they want to learn more about the intersection of content marketing and search and all the good stuff that you know how to do, where they can find you and your resources.
Well, you showed the book, Content Chemistry. You can just search for Content Chemistry, and it's in Amazon. You can find it most anywhere. I'm also at orbitmedia.com/blog. I write the deepest, most resourceful, useful piece of content I can on whatever topic every 2 weeks. That's my frequency. I'm sticking to it. And I'm also on the social web wherever. I hang out in all the places you do, Barry, so not too hard to find.
Yep, that is most true. All right, well, we'll see you in the deep, Andy.
Thanks, Barry.
Thank you.